So I was in McDonald's the other day and I saw this beautiful girl walk past me and I thought to myself, I wish I could have you in my burger. While it may not be my best attempt to talk to the opposite sex, if you go back to some points in history, there would be occasions where human burgers were on the menu. And probably 0 occasions where a female would ever want to speak to me again. Welcome to your favourite day of the week, everyone. And in 1999, French paleontologists discovered the bones of 6 Neanderthals in a French cave called Moulin-Gercy that were over 100,000 years old. But these bones weren't just the one that girls received from their dodgy Tinder matches. They had signs of systematic defleshing in order to remove the flesh and marrow from them. The bones were intermixed with that of deer bones, which was scored with similar markings, leading researchers to believe they were both part of a tasty meal for someone. While it wasn't clear whether these humans were munched on for survival or for some sort of ritual, the bones at Moulin-Gercy wasn't just an isolated incident in prehistory of evidence of cannibalism. A discovery at El Sidrón Cave in Spain paints a frightful picture of an extended family of 6 adults and 6 children who were dismembered, skinned, and then eaten alive by other Neanderthals roughly 50,000 years ago. Anthropologists believe human cannibalism could have occurred because of food shortages, or to remove bodies through ritual cannibalism, eliminating the access the predators had to the body as a form of predatory control. We are currently unsure of the exact dates of when prehistoric humans began engaging in cannibalism, with evidence showing it may be further than 600,000 years old, but what we are sure of is that they eventually did. The word cannibal didn't actually enter the English language until around the mid-16th century, however. The word is derived from the Spanish word of cannibal or carabao, which means savage, and was used in Columbus's diaries to describe the indigenous people of the Caribbean island, who were rumoured to be flesh munchers. Of course, cannibal was a much sexier term than the Greek and Latin word for it, which was anthropophagy. This. Take it and read it yourself, I have no idea. Which a 1538 dictionary describes as people in Asia who ate men. So cannibal stuck and was used to describe people of inferior civilizations. While cannibalism today comes with many taboos, and certainly gets you banned from McDonald's, references of the act have appeared throughout many historical and religious texts, and even mentions of cooked flesh being sold at an 11th century English market during times of famine. In 1098, during the First Crusades, after the successful capture of the Syrian city Mara, numerous first-hand accounts report that the Christian Crusaders fed on the body of their defeated Muslim opponents to celebrate their victory. After this, the facts of the Crusader crunch get kind of hazy, with some chronicles stating the bodies were consumed in wicked banquets in secret behind the backs of military leaders. Other accounts state that the leaders actually approved of the human feast because they wished to use the stories of the barbaric act as a psychological fear tactic in future crusade battles. Whatever the truth behind this tasty lunch, efforts were made to remove any mention of it from Western history, as it left an embarrassing stain on European culture. The First Crusade was supposed to be the first great European epic, a story people wanted to celebrate. However, they now had to deal with this association to such a horrifying act. The problem came with the fact that the human flesh feast at Mara didn't fit in to the idea of the European self-image. In the Middle Ages, cultural enemies were often depicted as being cannibals, to establish culture superiority, as human munching was often associated with people who were uncivilized, primitive, and inhuman. In 12th century medieval imagery, witches, Jews, savages, Asian people and pagans were thought of to be cannibals, but a Christian European was not, so it was extremely hypocritical for them to eat those who they had conquered in battle. Of course, if we take a lovely trip from Europe across the Atlantic Ocean all the way to Mesoamerica, we'll find that pre-Columbus civilizations were consuming more human meat than a Las Vegas hooker on a Friday night. Human sacrifice and ritualistic cannibalism was common in many parts of Mesoamerican society, especially by the Aztecs. The Aztecs believed that all gods sacrificed themselves so mankind could live. Because of this, human sacrifice was seen as the highest level of offering the Aztecs could use in order to repay their debt to the gods. Victims of the sacrifice were usually enemy prisoners that had been captured during battle or city conquests. The sacrifices were most commonly offered to the Aztec sun god Huitzilopochtli, as they believed the sun was engaged in a daily battle and the sacrifice would restore the blood that was lost. The victim would be placed on top of a sacrificial stone that was atop a pyramid as a priest cut through the abdomen with a flint or obsidian blade. The heart would be torn out while still beating and held towards the sky to honour Huitzilopochtli. After the heart had been removed from the body, it would then be pushed down the stairs of the pyramid where the Koyaaxtli stone could be found. The Koyaaxtli stone recreates the story of Huitzilopochtli's sister who was dismembered at the base of a mountain, just as the sacrificial victims were. The body would be given to the warrior who was responsible for the capture of the prisoner, and he would either cremate it or cut it into pieces and use it for ritual cannibalism. The warrior would thus ascend one step in the social hierarchy of Aztec society as a reward for their offering. Human sacrifices be accompanied by huge festivals and feasts in a way to properly honour the gods. While it is generally agreed upon that Aztec and other Mesoamerican societies did practice ritualistic cannibalism to appease the gods, it is still up for debate whether they also did it to supplement their overall diets. Claims that increasing populations made game become scarce, the Aztecs needed human sacrifice to supply appropriate amount of proteins per person. Claims of additional Aztec cannibalism could be subject to Spanish propaganda, however, as they were looking for a reason to dehumanize and villainize them so they could justify their conquest of the Mesoamerican area. But this would seem unlikely, as ritualistic cannibalism already existed, so they already had their reason to dehumanize them and call them savages. It seems that religious reasons were the primary motivation for the Aztecs nibbling on humans. I wish someone would nibble on me for religious reasons. Back over in Europe, hypocrisy had taken over as human consumption now became part of everyday life in things such as medicine. Thousands of Egyptian mummies' flesh, skin, bones, blood, fat, and even urine were ground up and used in prescriptions against disease, which continued all the way into the 20th century. The New World's supposed practice of cannibalism made them feared and barbaric in the eyes of the people of the European countries. However, at one point, the European people may have been consuming even more human than the people from the New World. European cultures were using mummies to cure their physical ailments, while at the same time they were using cannibalism as a reason to justify their conquest of Mesoamerica. Makes sense. Of course, while human cannibalism has been subject to religious and medical reasons, another such category would be so you could actually survive in a desperate situation. Following the Soviet victory after the siege of Stalingrad, German soldiers who were cut off from supplies resorted to cannibalism after everything else had been eaten. In awful circumstances, they probably all ran out of crystal meth as well. Cheeky video plug. There. Is that side? Wait, so is that side? Where does the eye come up? Here? Oh, just watch it anyway after this. You'll enjoy it. It's a good video, I promise. I promise. Good video. Thank you. I love you. After the crash of Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 in 1972 into the Andes Mountain, the 16 survivors resorted to cannibalism out of absolute necessity. Survivor Roberto Canessa recounts their extreme moral dilemma the situation put them in. Our common goal was to survive, but what we lacked was food. We had long since run out of the meagre pickings we found on the plain, and there was no vegetation or animal life to be found. After just a few days, we were feeling the sensation of our own bodies consuming themselves just to remain alive. Before long, we would become too weak to recover from starvation. We knew the answer, but it was too terrible to contemplate. The bodies of our friends and teammates, preserved outside in the snow and ice, contained vital, life-giving protein that could help us survive. But could we do it? For a long time, we agonised. I went out in the snow and prayed to God for guidance. Without his consent, I felt I would be violating the memory of my friends, that I would be stealing their souls. We wondered whether we were going mad even to contemplate such a thing. Had we turned into brute savages, or was this the only sane thing to do? Truly, we were pushing the limits of our fear. Deep quote. While the decision to eat their dead friends and colleagues did not come lightly, the consumption of the 29 dead helped towards the miraculous survival of the 16 who spent 72 days stuck up in the mountains. Of course, while consuming other humans is seen as a last resort, the human body does contain a few calories to help with survival, with it having roughly 125,000 calories in total if you consume every single part of it, or around 32,000 calories if you just wanted to eat the flesh. If you wanted the most joy while eating a human though, you'd go straight for the thigh, with an average human thigh containing roughly 13,000 calories. However, with such a fantastic specimen like myself, my godlike thighs could feed a whole T-Rex pack for roughly 2 to 3 million years. It's a shame they went extinct, because I'd love a few T-Rexes nibbling at these bad boys. I want to cry. While one human could support a 2,000 calorie diet for another human for roughly 60 days, it would be more beneficial to hunt larger beasts, as the remains of a mammoth, which contained 3.6 million calories, could feed a group of 25 for about 60 days, compared to a human corpse which would feed the same group for less than 1 day. Of course, if you are dead set on munching your fellow humans, be careful when consuming the brain, as when the Fore tribe of New Guinea engaged in a meaty munch, it resulted in the spread of the prion disease Kuru, a rare and fatal neurodegenerative disorder. So now we know you could use a human to make a nice sacrifice to appease the gods, or give yourself a highly calorie intensive meal. But this now begs the question, what does the human flesh actually taste like? Would it be enjoyable having a munch on your fellow friends? Human flesh falls into the category of red meat, and by most cannibal accounts has the consistency of beef. William Seabrook, an author who travelled to West Africa in the 1920s, documented his experience of eating human meat after spending time with a cannibal tribe. It was like good, fully developed veal. Not young, but not yet beef. It was very definitely like that, and it was not like any other meat I had ever tasted, and I think no person with a palate of an ordinary, normal sensitiveness could distinguish it from veal. It was mild, good meat, with no other sharply defined or highly characteristic taste, such as for instance goat, high game, or pork have. One of Germany's most infamous criminals, Armin Meyers, ate roughly 20 kilograms of a human after they agreed to meet to fulfill his sexual fantasies of eating someone. He explained, the flesh tastes like pork, a little bit more bitter, stronger. It tastes quite good. So there you have it. Human flesh tastes a bit like veal and a bit like pork. I'm sure it depends on which part of the body you are eating. So next time you're feeling a bit peckish, instead of going to that nice restaurant, why not have a nibble on your friends instead? Make sure you go for the thigh for the most calorie intensive bite. I'm sure they'll enjoy the bonding experience and won't twat you out on the curb. I've been Jamie's Day, your favourite day of the week, and this was the history of cannibalism. Leave a like if you did like the video, and if you haven't yet, give that subscribe button a little nibble. I'm gonna go get myself a cocktail, because it sounds nice. I stream on Twitch every week if you want to see more of me at twitch.tv/JamiesDay, and you get to know one of these lovely ducks if you do subscribe. Now everyone, go enjoy your menu, wherever you want, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.